Hey everybody, HK Fanboy Matt here. So you want to step up and become one of the elite and purchase a Heckler & Koch P7? Well, you better get on the boat because the prices of these have only drastically increased over the past several months. You used to be able to purchase these for around $1,000, $1,200, $1,500, no more. Now even the regular PSPs or the M8s have crept up to $2,500, $3,000, $4,000 plus. That's now the fair market value. And how do I know that's the fair market value? Because I've purchased and sold at those prices. So for all of you who already own these masterpieces, your value has increased. For all of you who are sitting on the sidelines, you either need to shit or get off the pot. Now, I can't make that decision for you, but what I'm going to help you with today is I'm going to show you what I inspect on a P7 before I purchase it. Because you're looking at a several $1,000 investment here, you want to make sure that you're not buying an expensive paperweight. You don't want to get it home and find out it needs extensive repairs or it needs a part replacement and the parts aren't made anymore, or something's broken and it can never be fixed. I'm going to show you a multi-point inspection I perform on each P7 before I commit to buying. I'll show you what to do, and then I'll show you what not to do as well, because you don't want to mess up one of these and try and put it back together yourself unless you're properly trained. I've done that. I've gone through it several times. The inner workings of these are very interesting and fascinating, ingenious, but if you don't know where all the parts go, then good luck. So I just recommend you don't even attempt it. But I'll show you what to do, what not to do. So let's head back to the bench and we'll take a look at the H&K P7. Do not buy until you watch this video. Fanboy out. Okay, here we are back in my workshop, and before I go any further, if you're watching this video, I really do appreciate it. As you can tell, I'm basically a micro channel, a blip on the radar. It's because I do it for fun. That's it. But any, like, subscribe, comment, all the things really helps, so I'd appreciate it. And then one final plug, the holsters I was using in the intro are these right here. So this is a Kydex holster for the pistol with a clip and a mod wing. And I did put a bump on the back, and it comes with some suede to make it smooth against your skin. And then also this Kydex magazine holster with a belt clip on it. And I actually make these through a company of mine called Snakebite Tactical, and I'll put a link in the description and the pinned comment so you can check them out if you want to. But I reached out to all the major holster manufacturers. Nobody wanted to touch it, obviously, because there probably isn't a big demand for them. So I learned how to make them myself, and I sell them now. But they are fantastic. All the other Kydex holsters I saw for P7s that are currently on the market, they didn't look great. I'll put it like that. I don't want to offend anybody, but yeah, they didn't look good. But anyhow, let's get to it. So here we are with the pistol, and I do have my garage door open, so if you hear some noises, that's why. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to eject the magazine, and I'm going to hold the pistol sideways like this. And when I eject the magazine, it should shoot out like that. It should not just sit there, but it should actually shoot out with some force. And then I'm going to rack the slide as well. We're going to make sure chamber's empty. And it is. And I'm going to rack it a few times to make sure the action is smooth and there are nothing feels gritty. It doesn't feel obstructed. You don't feel any bumps. And we're going to talk about any bumps you might feel in just a moment when we break down the pistol a little bit more. But yeah, you don't want to feel any resistance other than the spring, and nothing that feels like some type of obstruction is in there. So now that we know the firearm is safetied, I'm going to remove this screw right here for the panel grip, the grip panel rather. It doesn't matter which side you start with. However, notice that I am leaving the slide on when I do this. This is very important. This is one of these things I told you I'd tell you about to watch out for. I do not recommend you remove the grips with the slide off, because individually they hold parts in place. And if you remove the slide and the grips, parts can start popping out. And then, do you know how to put them back in? So I'm going to lift up on the front of the grip and slide it towards the front of the firearm. That's going to disengage the grip. There are little slots here that fit right in here in the frame, and that's why you need to slide it forward and then lift it out. The first thing I'm going to look for is on the grip is going to be the grip panel is going to be the locking washer. I want to make sure that's still in place. If not, you can find replacements. To get the actual quote-unquote HK style, they are kind of expensive for what they are, but you can find aftermarket locking washers that also work the same. But I do want to make sure that's still in there. And then I'm going to take a look at the internals. Now, I'm not going to touch any of the internals because I don't want anything to pop out. But what you're going to do is you're going to want to squeeze the cocker. And when you squeeze it and hold it back, you want to feel a click, definitive click. And when you release it, you want to feel a definitive click. When you squeeze the cocker, it doesn't need to be mushy. You don't want that, and you don't want it to feel like it's catching on something. It should be very smooth. Click and click. And I do like to inspect the internal parts just to make sure it looks like they're all have their finish on them, no rust. But that's it. That's visual inspection. Don't touch anything in there. And you can tell if I took the slide off, then parts can start popping off because right now they're kind of being held in by the slide. Okay, so now that I'm done with this panel, I'm going to slide it back on and screw it in place. If you notice, I have this special screwdriver that I like to use, especially when I'm making holsters and I got to screw on the back posts. It's extra wide, so less chance of slipping off and marring or damaging finishes. And I'll put a link to this. I found it on Amazon, but I'll put a link to it as well in the description and the pinned comment. And you don't need it screwed down super tight. You don't want to crack the grip panel, but make sure it's snug. And especially if yours come with wood grips, you do not want to over tighten it, otherwise you can crack those. Now on the other side, same deal. Lift up on the front of the panel, slide it forward, and it should pop off. And same thing, you're gonna squeeze the cocker. Make sure it visually functions correct. Nothing's binding. All parts have good finish on them. And that's all I'm doing with the internals there. Okay, so the next step is going to require removing the slide. So I'm going to pull the slide back slightly and depress this release button right here in the back. And you don't have to pull it back very far. Lift it up slightly and the slide will come off. So you have your recoil spring and the slide and the frame are now separate. This gas piston is extremely important to measure. The diameter of this first ring needs to be within 6.976 millimeters and 6.982 millimeters. Yes, that exact per H&K. So what I recommend is you buy a pair of calipers to measure it with. And you're going to measure the outermost ring. And mine says 6.98. Now the only thing about these calipers, and I don't recommend the digital type because they're not as accurate. So I found a more accurate pair I'll put a link to in the description. Again, you can purchase it off of Amazon. But the manual ones with the dial gauge are much more accurate in the resolution. Some of these can be off by as much as like 0.2 millimeters, 0.05 millimeters. And when we're dealing with 1/1000th of a millimeter difference, you want to be a little more accurate. The problem with the gas piston is when you clean it too aggressively with like a brush, a wire brush, and you can start grinding down these rings. And if you grind down the rings, then you're rendering the gas retardation system ineffective, and it'll act more like a direct blowback. And one of the main benefits of the P7 is the gas retardation system. So when I clean my piston, even though visually it may look dirty, I don't care. I just use cleaner and a patch. Now also inside the slide, we're going to take a look at these welds. One right here and one right here. You do not want to see any cracks in those welds, because good luck finding somebody to fix them. You might as well buy a new slide. Now let's go back to when you were racking the slide. If you felt any grinding or a bump, shall we say, then it could mean that there's an obstruction in the gas tube, the cylinder tube. So sometimes if you shine a flashlight down in there, you can see if there's any built up fouling and try and scrape that out. Not to get into too much detail in this video, but there is a cause of that, and that is basically, when gunpowder goes through this little hole down in there, it can start building up in the tube, and sometimes you can just clean that out. Another thing that I do look for when I purchase the P7 though is it coming with the cylinder cleaning tool, and on the PSP, is it coming with the firing pin screwdriver. The M8s and other models, the firing pin sticks out a little bit, so you can press it in with your thumb when you need to remove it, and it's easy. But with the PSP, which I don't have mine right here, but it's more flush with the slide, and that screwdriver will allow you to turn it and release it a little easier. So those didn't come with all the PSPs, but some. Both of those, the original screwdriver and cylinder tool, I've seen those sell on eBay for like $150 each. Original box, original manual, Target, and then those are up to you, but boxes do sell for a couple $100. And just another thing you can verify is that when you pull the trigger, is there any grinding, any hesitation? Obviously it needs to act like a trigger and spring right back. Other functionality checks, make sure all the springs are sound. And you could, shine a light down the barrel there and take a look at the rifling. But in all the P7s I've purchased over the many years, I've never found one that had anything that really concerned me going on with it. But not a bad idea, just take a look down there. Now assembly, just slide the recoil spring on. It can get a little tricky on some of these because you have to line up the gas piston with the tube in there before it'll slide all the way back for you to engage the slide onto the frame. And that's about all I look for before I purchase a P7. If you feel I've missed something, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'm all about learning and sharing information, so that'd be cool. Other than that, I can't think of anything else. Like I said, I will put a link to the calipers and this wide screwdriver that I use in the description and the pinned comment if you want to check them out. And also check out my website if you want to as well. I make some other stuff. But if you made it to the end, I do appreciate you watching. I gotta go. Bye.